The restaurant buzzed with clinking glasses and the hum of polite laughter. Balloons in gold and white floated near the ceiling, casting a glow over the long banquet table. My sister Amanda stood at the head like a queen on her throne. She lifted her wine glass, her smile sharp enough to cut through the room. "To my promotion," she announced, her voice dripping with pride. "Director of Finance at Sterling & Co. Hard work pays off, doesn't it?" Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Applause erupted. My parents clapped the loudest, their faces lit with smug pride. My mother leaned toward me, her perfume stinging my nose as she whispered with a laugh. "See, Claire? This is why we always said Amanda was the smart one. You'll never catch up." Heat rose to my cheeks, but I stayed silent, my fingers curled tight around my glass of water. I'd learned to wear silence like armor. My father added, loud enough for the table to hear, "She's proof of what success looks like. Some people in this family should take notes." His eyes flicked to me, and the cousins around us chuckled. Amanda basked in it, tilting her head back with a smug grin. "Well," she said, pretending to wave it off, "not everyone can keep up with me." I forced a smile, my heartbeat thrumming in my ears. None of them knew the truth simmering under my calm expression. None of them knew what was about to happen. The room hushed when the man in the dark gray suit stepped forward, Mr. Caldwell, the family's longtime attorney. He cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. "Before the cake is served, I've been asked to make a brief announcement." Amanda clapped her hands together. "Oh, is this about the expansion contract?" "Perfect timing. Really seals the deal on my night." The lawyer didn't smile. His eyes swept across the table and then landed on me. "Actually, this is regarding the transfer of shares at Sterling & Co." The air shifted. Chairs creaked as relatives leaned in, curious. My mother smiled, expecting more praise for her golden child. My father's chest swelled. Amanda's grin widened as if the spotlight belonged solely to her. But then Caldwell spoke again, his voice steady, deliberate. "As of this morning, the majority shareholder of Sterling & Co. is Claire Whitman." For a heartbeat, silence swallowed the room whole. Amanda's smile faltered. Her glass slipped from her fingers and shattered against the floor, wine splattering across her heels. "What?" she choked, her face draining of color. That's not possible," gasps rippled around the table. My father's hand froze mid-clap, his mouth hanging open. My mother's eyes darted from me to Amanda, panic flickering in her perfect smile. Cousins stared, wide-eyed, forks forgotten in their hands. I set my glass down carefully, letting the tension hang like smoke in the air. My voice was calm but sharp when I finally spoke. "Happy birthday, Amanda." Her breath caught in her throat, and for the first time in my life she had no words. Amanda's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. The fragments of glass at her feet glittered under the chandelier, sharp and jagged, just like the silence cutting through the banquet hall. "What kind of sick joke is this?" she demanded, her voice shrill. She turned to Mr. Caldwell, her tone half order, half plea. "Say it again." "Say my name." The lawyer didn't flinch. He simply adjusted his glasses and repeated, slower this time. "The controlling interest in Sterling & Co. has been transferred. The majority shareholder is now Claire Whitman." Amanda's lips trembled. "No, that company, my company, it's mine. You worked for it," I said, my voice low but steady. "I bought it." The room exhaled at once, whispers swelling like a storm tide. Cousins covered their mouths. An uncle muttered, "Unbelievable." My father's chair screeched back as he stood, face red, veins bulging at his temple. "Claire!" he snapped, slamming his palm onto the table so hard the silverware rattled. "What game are you playing? Don't humiliate your sister on her birthday." Humiliate her? The thought burned through me, but I kept my composure. I'd endured years of their public digs, their smirks, their endless comparisons. Tonight was the reckoning. "This isn't a game," I said firmly. My hands were steady now, no trace of the trembling girl they'd mocked for years. "This is business. And the lawyer can confirm every document, Mr. Caldwell nodded. All shares were legally transferred. The filings are complete. Claire holds 51% of the company. Amanda's knees buckled, and she gripped the back of her chair to steady herself. This can't be happening. How could you afford that? Her voice cracked on the last word. The question sliced through the air. My parents leaned forward, their faces tight with disbelief. My mother hissed, "You? With what money? You can barely keep your job at that little marketing firm." I allowed myself a small, almost imperceptible smile. "You never asked what I was building while you were busy praising Amanda." Amanda's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" I leaned back in my chair, calm, controlled. "While you were climbing the ladder at Sterling & Co., I was building my own. Every late night, every client you said was beneath you, I took them. I built a portfolio. I invested when everyone else was too scared. And while you spent your bonuses on handbags and vacations, I bought shares, quietly, patiently, until the numbers were in my favor." The silence that followed was heavier than the applause Amanda had basked in minutes ago. My father's face darkened, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. "You betrayed your own sister," he spat. "No," I said, meeting his glare. "She underestimated me." "You all did." Amanda lunged forward, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You've always been jealous. You couldn't stand me being the star, could you? This is revenge." Her words stung, but not in the way she intended. They weren't wrong, but they weren't the whole truth either. "Jealous?" I asked, my tone cutting. "No, Amanda. I was invisible. You loved it that way. Every family dinner, every holiday. You flaunted your promotions and they called me the failure. You told me I'd never catch up. You laughed when I worked nights to make rent. Do you remember that?" Amanda opened her mouth, but no words came out. "Tonight isn't about revenge," I continued, my voice steady, controlled, even as my heart pounded. "It's about reality. And the reality is this: I own the company. The promotions, the bragging, the attention. You can keep all of that if it makes you feel better. But the power, the decisions, the future, that belongs to me now." A murmur rippled through the relatives seated along the table. One of my cousins whispered, "Damn," under his breath. Another stifled a laugh, quickly silenced by my father's glare. Amanda's hands shook so badly she could barely lift her napkin. Her face was ghostly pale, her mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. She looked like someone watching the walls of her carefully built kingdom crumble brick by brick. My mother finally broke the tension, her voice trembling with anger. "How could you do this to family?" "Family?" The word tasted bitter. I looked her dead in the eye. "Where was family when you told me I'd never amount to anything? When you said Amanda was the smart one, the worthy one? Family didn't matter then, did it?" The air felt electric, like a storm about to break. Amanda collapsed into her chair, her head in her hands. My father sat down slowly, still fuming, his fists clenched tight against the tablecloth. I stood. My chair scraped against the floor, the sound slicing through the heavy silence. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to end a chapter. Amanda, you wanted a night to celebrate your success. Tonight you can celebrate mine too." Amanda lifted her face, her eyes wet, her lips trembling as if she wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I leaned forward just enough for her to hear me clearly. My voice was quiet, but it landed like a hammer. "Happy birthday, sis. Consider this. Your gift." Her breath caught. And for the first time in my life, Amanda Whitman looked small. Amanda's birthday balloons bobbed weakly above her, their gold ribbons swaying in the draft of the ceiling fans. The festive glow of the room had soured into a tense, suffocating silence. She sat frozen, her knuckles white against the napkin in her lap. "This isn't real," she muttered, almost to herself. "It can't be. You can't just take everything from me." I didn't sit back down. I stayed standing, looking down at her, calm but unshakable. "I didn't take it, Amanda. I earned it. You were so busy looking down on me, you never saw me climbing right past you." My father's voice erupted, breaking the brittle quiet. "Enough!" His face was red, his voice sharp enough to make the cousins at the far end of the table jump. He pointed at me like a judge sentencing a criminal. You're nothing but a snake, Claire. Backstabbing your own flesh and blood for what? To embarrass us in front of everyone? Embarrass you? I repeated, my tone cool, my heart hammering inside my chest. No, Dad. You embarrassed me for years. Every time you told me I wasn't enough. Every time you praised Amanda while cutting me down. Tonight isn't about humiliation. It's about the truth. Amanda stood suddenly, her chair clattering to the floor. The truth? The truth is you're bitter and small. You'll never run a company like Sterling. You don't have what it takes. Her voice cracked at the end, revealing the panic underneath her rage. The room shifted uneasily. Some of the relatives tried to look away. Others watched like they were front row at a courtroom drama. No one dared speak. I stepped closer, my voice low but cutting through the tension. If I don't have what it takes, Amanda, why do I own your company? Amanda's breath hitched, her face crumbling. For a second, I thought she might lunge at me, but her hands trembled too badly. Then my mother rose, her pearls gleaming under the chandelier, her face tight with fury. Claire, listen to yourself. Do you think anyone here respects what you've done? Do you think they'll admire you? You bought your way in. That doesn't make you powerful. It makes you cruel. I turned to face her, my expression sharp. Cruel? That's rich, Mom. Where was your kindness when you told me I'd always be second best? When you said Amanda was the smart one and I was the mistake you had to live with? That was cruelty. What I did? That was survival. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but her eyes flickered. For the first time, I saw something other than disdain in her gaze. Fear. Amanda slammed her fist onto the table, making the glasses rattle. You'll regret this, Claire. You think you're strong now, but you don't know what you're walking into. Running Sterling isn't some game, it will eat you alive. I held her stare. Maybe, but at least I'll be the one at the head of the table now. Her face twisted, and she let out a short, strangled laugh. You'll crash and burn. Everyone here knows it. She turned to the relatives, desperate, her eyes darting for support. Tell her. Tell her she can't handle this. But no one moved. No one spoke. The same cousins who had always cheered for her now lowered their eyes. An uncle coughed awkwardly into his napkin. One of her so-called friends fidgeted with her phone, avoiding Amanda's gaze entirely. That silence hit Amanda harder than my words ever could. Her face fell, her eyes wide with betrayal as she realized the room no longer belonged to her. See? I said quietly, not to gloat, but to cut through her denial. Even they know. The moment power shifts, so does loyalty. Amanda stumbled back a step, her eyes glistening, her breathing shallow. My mother rushed to steady her, whispering frantically, Don't let her break you, sweetheart. You're still the star of this family. Amanda shook her head, her voice breaking. Not anymore. Not if she really owns everything. The lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, cleared his throat, stepping forward once more. It's not a question of if, Ms. Whitman. All documents are finalized. Claire is legally in control. Amanda stared at him as if the words were knives. Then, with a sudden movement, she grabbed her handbag, her fingers fumbling. I don't care. I'll fix this. I'll find a way. You'll see. Her voice was high, frantic, almost unhinged. Running won't change reality, I said softly. She froze in the doorway, her back to me, her shoulders trembling. For a moment, I thought she might turn and unleash one last insult. But she didn't. She pushed through the doors and vanished into the night, leaving her birthday balloons bobbing above an empty chair. The room sat in stunned silence. My father's glare was so sharp it could have carved stone, but he said nothing. My mother clutched her pearls, breathing hard, her eyes wet with rage she couldn't voice. I let the silence hang before I finally spoke. My words were calm, deliberate, the sound of years of buried pain finding release. You all spent years telling me I'd never catch up, I said, sweeping my gaze across the table. Well, I didn't just catch up. I passed her. And the truth is, none of you saw it coming. No one dared argue. The clink of cutlery had long since stopped. The restaurant staff lingered nervously by the door, unsure whether to keep serving or clear the table. My sister's absence hung in the air like smoke after a fire, her birthday decorations now looking foolish, mocking even. My father finally broke the silence, his voice a low growl. "You think you've won something here, Claire, but all you've done is tear this family apart." I looked at him steadily, refusing to shrink the way I always had. "No, Dad, you did that years ago. Every time you made me the punchline. Every time you told me Amanda was the smart one and I was the waste of potential. You broke this family. Tonight I just refuse to keep playing the role you wrote for me." His jaw clenched, his fists tight at his sides. He was a man used to being obeyed, used to his word being final. For the first time, I saw the cracks in that authority. He couldn't control this. He couldn't control me. My mother's voice was sharp, trembling at the edges. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The Whitman name is respected in this town because of Amanda. Because of us. And now you've made us a spectacle." I turned toward her, calm but cutting. "Respect built on ignoring half your own family isn't respect. It's a lie. Maybe it's time the town saw the truth, too." Gasps rippled down the table. Some cousins looked thrilled by the drama, others terrified. One aunt muttered, "She's right," before quickly lowering her eyes. Amanda's empty chair loomed at the end of the table, her abandoned glass of wine leaving a crimson stain on the tablecloth. I stared at it, my chest tightening, not with guilt, but with the weight of years. For so long I had dreamed of this moment. I thought I'd feel triumph, maybe even joy. But instead, I felt something sharper. Freedom. Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Ms. Whitman," he said, addressing me directly now, "the transition documents will be ready for your signature Monday morning. You'll officially assume control of Sterling & Co. at that time." I nodded once. "Thank you." My father slammed his fist against the table. "You'll ruin it. Everything Amanda built, you'll destroy it within a year." I leaned toward him, my voice low but steady. "Then watch me. Because the truth is, Amanda didn't build Sterling. She inherited her seat. She used her last name as a ladder. I built myself from nothing. I know what it means to fight for survival. And that's the kind of leadership Sterling has needed all along." His face twisted, rage warring with something else. Fear, maybe. The realization that his control over me, over this narrative, was gone forever. I stood tall, my voice carrying through the room. "I won't run Sterling to prove anything to you. I'll run it to prove it to myself. To prove that the daughter you dismissed is stronger than the daughter you crowned. And whether you approve or not doesn't matter anymore." The room erupted in whispers. Some of my relatives nodded slightly, hesitant but supportive. Others stared in shock. The balance had shifted. My mother reached for my arm, desperate. "Claire, please!" "You don't understand the pressure you're putting yourself under. You'll break." I pulled my arm back gently but firmly. "You're wrong." "For the first time, I won't." The waiter approached timidly, holding the birthday cake. Candles flickered on top, their flames unsteady in the tense air. "Should I bring this out?" he asked awkwardly. Everyone froze. The irony was unbearable. I shook my head. "No, the party's over." He nodded quickly and retreated. My father shoved back his chair, his face dark with fury. "You'll regret crossing this family, Claire. Don't come crying to us when the walls cave in." I looked at him, a small, cold smile tugging at my lips. "I won't need to. I've built my own walls now." With that, I picked up my clutch, straightened my jacket, and turned toward the exit. Every eye followed me, the air heavy with shock and disbelief. As I walked past Amanda's abandoned balloons, I paused for just a second, letting the scene burn into memory. The empty chair, the wine stain, the family silenced for once in their lives. When I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in years, I breathed freely. My phone buzzed in my hand, an email notification. I glanced at it. "Congratulations, majority shareholder." I let out a breath that was half laugh, half sob. It wasn't joy. It wasn't vengeance. It was release. Amanda's words echoed faintly in my mind. "You'll regret this." Maybe I would. But tonight, for the first time in my life, Regret wasn't what I felt untouchable. And as the doors of the restaurant closed behind me, leaving my parents and their whispers in the past, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. They would never look at me the same way again.